going to change because you complain. Listen, we get it all the time, Bo, on our show in WWL. Same sort of thing about, y'all got to put a stop to this. Y'all, what's this? Y'all got to put a stop to this. The guys that had this a week basically kind of set up, it's not 30 and 40-year-old guys. These are judges that's more my age than your age, Bo. They're the one who set all this up. But you see, older people don't want to accept that. That they think that this is all the blame for the athletes. It is judges that ruled in favor of the athletes because the NCAA screwed this up for so many years.
Amen. So
these are older guys that made this decision on what you're seeing today in the NCAA. Basically, it is almost a powerless organization. They come in every once in a while, like in the Chandler situation, and kind of try to throw a little bit of clout here and there. But we got guys that have been to 7 schools, and you don't hear a squawk about it. Nothing. It's amazing. But don't blame this on the athlete. This is all on judges that when they went to court with this, they ruled in favor of the athlete. And those judges, they look a lot more like me than they look like you, Bo. Age-wise. You can't blame the athlete. They're playing by the rules that are set up.
Yeah.
And John Summerall had a great point when we did Tulane Tuesday, and he was like, Mike, you got representation, I got representation, and so does every player playing major college football today. They got representation too. And who gave them that power? Judges in rulings. So don't blame the athlete. They just playing by the game that's been set up.
Right. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Dabo Swinney's mad at Ole Miss over Luke Farrelly. Mike, what do you think happens?
Get over it.
I think it's just a fine. I think Ole Miss will have to pay a little money, like LSU had to pay some money for Daughtery or Princeville. I can't remember which one it was that was kind of already. Thank you.
Princeville.
Yeah. Don't you think? I mean, Mike, I don't think anything comes of it other than Ole Miss is going to have to write Clemson a check. Is that where you are?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
That's all it's going to be. Because of the wording and how it's done, we had a lawyer on with us explain that, you can't prevent that player from leaving. Now, he would have to pay some monetary damages, but basically, who takes care of that? The other school. Okay? They're not, it's nothing coming out of his pocket, so to speak. But, yeah, it's just going to be a monetary fee.
Yeah. Mike Detillier on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, so what's crazier right now as far as your show? I know when you have the Saints, when you have an NFL team, that drives the ship majority of the time. But is Lane a bigger topic right now than Saints football and Tyler Shuck, Mike D?
It has been the last 2 weeks. That's all I can tell you, because every day we get material. I got a couple young producers, and their deal is, I don't know what we're gonna do. Now that NFL's over with. No, the transfer portal is like manna from heaven. I mean, they gave us 2 weeks of content that we wouldn't have had. Last year was a little bit of it, and LSU was going out and get kind of 1-year guys. What you see with Kiffin's a little bit different. Yeah, he does get some 1-year guys, but he's also brought in some developmental people that'll stay more than a year. But what's driving the train? LSU transfer portal has for 2 weeks. This week is a little bit different because other than maybe to talk about Seaton, who came in sort of late last week, and I know we talked about it on this show. At that Tuesday morning, I had been told by people at LSU they felt very good about Jordan Seaton coming in, that he was kind of the final piece of the puzzle. They wanted to land that left tackle, but it's sort of drawn out throughout the week. His uncle was also involved with this, and finally it came down. You know, there's always representation. There's always people that sort of drag it out, and the stories that are going to be written about this, think about he leaves Baton Rouge and goes to Atlanta, Jordan Seaton. And the next day, who's following him to Atlanta is Lane Kiffin. He did almost the exact same thing with Sam Levitt when he went to Nashville to track Levitt down. So I've been told by some staffers the time he has put in with the transfer portal and understanding what that means for his team in 2026, he's put in more time recruiting in that same month that he's been at LSU. He's put in more time recruiting than, basically we saw Brian Kelly put in a year. Brian,
wow,
that was not Brian's forte. He did not like sort of that part of the game. He's certainly a different management style guy. He wanted to do things his own way and have the assistants and other people recruit and then bring them in, and then I talk to them and I'll be the closer. Come on, that's not how it works. You got to actively be involved with that, but that was not his recruiting style. Lane's a lot different, and young players relate to Lane Kiffin because he's on social media.
Sure.
Okay, people don't get it. Okay, people say who over 45 years old, they didn't grow up with social media. They don't understand this is the outreach to 15, 16, 17-year-olds and maybe a little bit older. They don't get that particular part. And I think that Lane does, and he's all into selling brand, the LSU brand. That, man, you can come here, and every time you turn on television, okay, they got Livy Dunn. Guess where Livy Dunn went to school? LSU. Shaq O'Neal. Guess where Shaq went to school at? LSU. Jaden Daniels, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. Man, they sell that. And Armando Duplantis, the greatest pole vaulter ever. And you see all these people that played at LSU that's on television. If it's Ryan Clark, Marcus Spears, Andrew Whitworth, Jen Hale didn't play at LSU, but she was a cheerleader there. Fox reporter now. They sell that. This is brand. And what we have, Flage, in women's basketball, on and on. He knew how to sell that. And two, that the days of having the great recruiter on the staff, you better change that real quick. You better have guys that can coach. What the great recruiter today is a checkbook. That's what gets their attention. Now, you got to seal the deal, and for most young athletes, they want to play right away. That's part of it. I want to play right away. But that checkbook is going to get their attention real quickly, very, very quickly.
WWL Radio New Orleans, Mike Detillier on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Show is brought to you by your next video wall from Sound and Communications. Talking some football with Mike D. Lane Kiffin on fire, #1 transfer portal class. Did well in high school. But if you combine them, he's #1 too. So LSU. Hey, Mike.
Can I throw something out
sure.
at this? Lane does the press conference in early December. And then he talks at a business function early last week. That's the only time he's talked to the media. think about it in that manner. That I think people think he's giving interviews out left and right and all over. Hasn't been the case. But it almost seems as though he has, right?
Because of the way he uses social media.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He uses that as his platform. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to do a sit down with, I don't know, because him and Paul Feinbaum sort of has went at odds at times, but he doesn't have to do a sit down with anybody. He's getting his message across, and you would swear he's giving interviews left and right. Now, he did show up at the Texas Bowl and gave a little spot there, but there's been no television sit down, radio sit down, none of it. But you'd swear it was. You'd swear it would happen. That because of how he uses social media, and other coaches really don't do it. So when he says something, everybody's paying attention. He's become college football's version of E.F. Hutton. Hutton talks, people listen. Okay, that's just
true.
That's just the way he's done it.
True.
And you might not like it, and eventually one day he's going to leave LSU, and in probably a really messy situation, like he's done everywhere else. But if he can win and win big, I think for LSU, they used of it. They saw Paul Diesel do it in the 60s. They saw Coach Saban, he tried to get in the NFL, and that didn't work out. So I think the days of maybe having the Bobby Bowdens of the world, or Darrell Royal at Texas, or Bo Schembechler, and those type of guys that spent so long at universities, Joe Paterno at Penn State, I think are sort of gone.
Yeah.
They sort of left us like our youth. It's gone too. That you're not going to see that. It's going to be more of, I think, what you see in the real world today. Mm-hmm. That people last a few years at a job, and then something happens. Either they're forced out or they decide to leave for more money.
I agree with you. Mike Detillier on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Let's talk Lane and Saban, Mike. Saban needed Lane, and Lane needed Saban. Saban needed to reboot his offense. Lane needed to go to coaching rehab. And so it worked, but it drove Saban crazy because he was late all the time and not as disciplined and accountable as he is today. But he took from that, figured it out at Florida Atlantic. You know the drill. Made the run at the historic run at Ole Miss, and now he's going to do well at LSU. I get the sense that Lane wants to be close to Saban. Obviously, they have conversations, but that at the end of the day, Saban will talk to him and mentor him a little bit, but he just doesn't have time, doesn't really want to be close to Lane. Do you agree with any of that, Mike?
I think there's a relationship there that only probably they could address, to be honest with you. It ended ugly when, he had to let him loose before the national championship game. Well, he had got assurances that, Lane's focus would be on the game. Lane's focus was on Lane and recruiting. Okay. That's difficult to do when you're trying to juggle it. That's really difficult to do there. And I think with Lane, I think he would want a good relationship with Coach Saban. I really believe that. Just like people say he doesn't care about what's said about him. I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
I think he does care about what's said about him. Now, does it in the long run matter to him? No. But I do think it does matter to him that he have a good relationship with some people in the media because they can get his message across. They can get that across. Mm-hmm. I think, when you take jobs like Ole Miss and LSU, because of the communities we live in, it's a little different jobs than maybe other places. That you got to kind of know the people and their understanding of it and their acceptance that, hey, we all flawed in life. I'm flawed, you flawed, we all flawed in life. But accept me for who I am, But if you in for the ride, I'm going to give you one. Now, how I leave is going to be a little different, but we're going to go for a really good ride here. And I think that particular part for Lane is always going to be a part of him in how he leaves schools and how he's left jobs. But I do think he seeks sort of the attention of applause on how successful he is. You can say, oh, no, it doesn't matter to him. It does matter to him because I think he's sensitive about it. He still is upset that, Feinbaum went over and over again about how he got fired at USC. that wasn't yesterday that he got fired on the tarmac at in California. That wasn't yesterday. And so some coaches can just put it aside and walk away. It's just another chapter. I think Lane is like a lot of us and remember the bad moments a lot more clearer than the good ones.
Yeah.
And we all have that trait in us. We remember
as humans
more difficult times than we remember maybe good times. The one thing when Sean Payton left the Saints, we had this supper for Sean. One of the things he said that day was, I wish I would have enjoyed the Super Bowl run better. That I didn't enjoy it like I should have. And so he said, if ever the situation comes and I get another shot, I want to enjoy it more because I know it's not going to happen very often in today's world, but I didn't enjoy it like I should have in 2009. I thought that was telling of all the things he could have said, and that was in his mind, that he didn't enjoy that Super Bowl run. He was so driven to get it that you sort of forget, hey, it took a while to get there.
Mike Detillier on the Out of Bounds Show, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. All right, Sean Payton, when he didn't kick the field goal in the first half Sunday. Mike D., what was your reaction?
It's not a second guess. It was the first one. What the hell? He knew the weather conditions in the second half of that game. One of the things Sean would always talk about when he was coaching with the Saints, Coach Payton would bring up about of getting, weather reports on wind and when it would start to rain or snow or whatever. They didn't have a lot of those games snow-wise when he was in New Orleans, but he was always up to date on that. You got to take the 3 points there. You're playing with a backup quarterback. And even that play, if it gets the first down, doesn't get you a touchdown. You can talk about going up 14-0, but only thing that play would have gotten you was the first down.
Right.
Kick the field goal, take the points. The other thing with Sean, you got to remember that Coach Payton is always hyper-aggressive. He's always been that way. Always. He was hyper-aggressive before hyper-aggressive for a coach was in the dictionary.
That's right.
He was like that here in New Orleans from early on until the day he left. He was that sort of individual. It didn't surprise me. It's just something I wouldn't have done knowing those conditions were going to worsen. You get a 10-0 lead, and your defense was playing lights out, okay? And not like Drake May was lighting it up here. He wasn't. And, man, then it got to be almost like blizzard-like conditions in the second half. So while it didn't surprise me, it would not have been something I would have done. I would have kicked that field goal, come up 10-0. They need 2 scores to even tie you at that point. But knowing Payton, he did what I think most people who have covered him thought he would do. I'm going to go for it and try to put a touchdown on the board. But you look at that play, the way it worked out, even if that was a catch and he'd have turned up the field and got a first, it doesn't give you at all a touchdown. All that play was designed was to get you the first. So kick the field goal. Why do coaches today pass up on points?
I don't know.
Especially early in a game. I don't get that, Bo, at all. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but he's not the first one to do it and won't be the last.
Mike D on the Out of Bounds Show. Happy Mardi Gras. Thanks, Mike D. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it.
At Mike Detillier on X. That's the Elon Musk platform. At Mike Detillier. Hey, the show is brought to you by the Mississippi State University Bagley College of Engineering. And students can participate in any of several dozen impactful teams and clubs. The Space Cowboys rocketry team recently won first place at the IREC Spaceport America Cup, the world's largest intercollegiate rocket engineering conference and competition. And Mississippi State University Bagley College of Engineering won it.